UFC Fight Night, Rozenstruik versus Gaziev happened last night. It was an interesting card to say the least. Let's talk about it. All right, first fight on the main card was Steve Erceg versus Matt Schnell. Steve Erceg boxed the face off of Matt Schnell. Did what he does best, completely outboxed Matt Schnell, defended the takedowns well. I think Matt Schnell landed a couple good shots in the first round, and it made Steve Erceg just that more cautious, better on his boxing, better on his counter punching. Not so aggressive either, because I think the only reason Erceg got caught was because he got a little over aggressive, got a little too excited looking for the finish, which he did find in the second round pretty early with a beautiful left hook. I said he would catch Matt Schnell, probably with a left hook, probably would catch Matt Schnell rushing in, which Matt Schnell does when he throws combinations. When he really offers any type of offense with punches, he kind of rushes in, and this isn't, I'm not trying to knock Matt Schnell, but it is a tendency that I've noticed with him. And lo and behold, Steve Erceg got the KO. I'd like to see Steve Erceg fight Muhammad Mokaev. I think that'd be a good fight. I know Mokaev won, and we'll get to his fight in a little bit, but I think Steve Erceg could defend the takedowns from Muhammad Mokaev. Muhammad Mokaev, I don't know what it is about him, but his takedowns just, anyway, we're not going to get on that. Steve Erceg did really well, defended the takedown attempts from Matt Schnell very well. I thought he did well in the Alessandro Costa fight. Defended those takedowns well, and weathered the storm of aggression that Costa was throwing at him and still outboxed him. So I think Steve Erceg looks really good on the feet. I think he would absolutely eat Muhammad Mokaev alive. And I don't think Muhammad Mokaev could take him down. But we'll get on to that next. Anyway, good victory for Steve Erceg. Next fight on the main card was Umar Nurmagomedov versus Beksat Almakhan. Beksat is the real deal. I know he lost a fight. Umar showed his absolute intelligence when it comes to the grappling and overall fight game in general. Just Eagles MMA in general probably have the highest IQ in MMA. Umar did what Umar does. He out-grappled his opponent. Beksat came in, he swung very hard, powerful puncher, powerful striker in general. And Umar felt that, got dropped. And right away in his mind, the game plan switched from, let's see what this guy has on the feet. Let's see what I can offer. I can prove I'm the better one on the feet too. We're not fighting this guy on the feet. He's too dangerous. We're going to do what we're used to doing, basically. Quick switch. Umar was able to pretty much get the takedown at will. I will say Beksat did make it hard in the actual positioning part of the wrestling. Like, Umar had a hard time really pinning Beksat down and keeping him in one spot, allowing him to really work on one specific thing or really focus on what he wanted to do. He had to constantly keep fighting for position against Beksat in order to land those small elbows and small strikes that he was able to land. And I know he hurt Beksat, but Beksat made it hard. He was constantly trying to bridge, constantly trying to hand fight, constantly trying to get to his hip so that he could explode out or hip escape away. Made it just really tough. He did land, I believe he landed like a partial head kick too at the end of round one, or it might have been at the beginning of round two. Beksat kicking Umar, and that was a little dangerous too. But really not a lot happened on the feet in this fight. But there was always that element that this guy could really KO Umar, even though Umar was handily winning the fight, dominating the fight actually. It was still really scary. And great win from Umar, because that dude was scary. At any moment, that dude could probably shut anyone's lights out in the division. Like, he has that much power. I'm not just glazing. Like, this dude is the real deal. And Umar just showed us that he is absolutely the real deal. But we all kind of already knew that anyway. So great win for Umar. We'll see what's in store for him next. I would have loved to see the Corey Sandhagen fight, because Corey Sandhagen has very good grappling, has really improved on his grappling. I'd like to see how he will defend the takedowns and the wrestling of Umar Nurmagomedov, and I'll like to see what Umar is able to offer on the feet, if they fight on the feet at all. Very interesting matchup for me. As far as for, who I'd like to see Beksat fight, I'd really like to see him fight Piotr Jan or Song Yadong. I think those would be great matchups for him in the future. If he's able to climb the ranks and get that high, I think I would love to see fights where the Jan fight, because they're similar builds, him and Beksat, I think they look really similar. And I know Jan's more of a combination guy. He does have power, but he likes to hurt people with combos and kind of outbox him. I want to see if he'll be able to, if a guy like Beksat would be able to hurt a boxer like that, like if he's good enough on the feet to get to someone like that, which I think he is. Or I'd like to see him fight Yadong, where you have two power punchers, two guys going at each other, see who can knock who out. That's an interesting fight to me too. But anyway, good win for Umar. And I'd like to see what Beksat can offer the bantamweight division. All right, next fight was Muhammad Mokaev versus Alex Perez. I didn't agree with the decision on this fight. I thought Perez won the fight. I thought it was a really boring fight, to be honest with you. Muhammad Mokaev is not great on the feet. Not great on the feet at all. I thought he was a lot better on the feet. Going back and watch some of his tape, watch some of his highlights. I thought that some of the fights where he may have struggled may have just been because the opponent was he was kind of awkward, or no. Muhammad Mokaev isn't great on the feet. He does have good technique, as far as like the way his punches and kicks look, the way his knees look, that kind of thing. He doesn't have like great footwork though, and he doesn't really create angles. Like, he's not a boxer. He's not like a kickboxer. Very rudimentary in his movement, and he's also there to be hit too. Like, I don't see him beating Alejandro Pantoja at all. Like, I don't see it. I see Pantoja knocking Mokaev out, honestly. But I guess we'll get to the fight. So it was a slow, not really a lot offered in round one from either guy. I don't think that anyone really got a takedown in round one either. I think both guys were kind of just picking at each other, feeling each other out. There were lots of leg kicks. I think that was like the predominant strike. I think it was coming from both fighters, but not a lot happened. Honestly, I couldn't really tell you who I thought round one, or who won round two. Honestly, it was really super close. I will say Mokaev was definitely trying to work the takedowns more, but Perez was defending him well. He was defending a lot of takedowns well, and in the defense of those takedowns, he was hitting Mokaev. He was able to knee him a few times. He was able to knee him to the head. I think he kneed him to the head one time, and it might have been illegal, but the ref didn't say anything, so whatever, fair game. I want to say this fight was pretty darn close. Not much to be said. I thought I had it in a slight edge towards Perez, because I thought he landed some of the better leg kicks. I thought he landed some of the better shots. Especially towards the end of the fight, Mokaev kept dropping. Anytime there would be an exchange or anytime punches would get thrown, Mokaev would just drop to his legs and try to go for a takedown with absolutely no setup or anything. He would just drop and try to engage the takedown. And honestly, I could see some of the better guys just kind of like folding, like just completely running through Mokaev, folding him over and just smashing him when he tries to do that. It was super annoying to see. Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I don't know if I agree with the decision, but I guess you could give the first round slightly edge to Mokaev. I think he was a little more aggressive in that round. Rounds 2 and rounds 3, I'm going to have to give to Perez. I think Perez took him. So I don't agree with the decision. But anyway, I spent enough time on this. I don't think Mokaev is really going to do anything to the top guys in the division. I think Pantoja beats him. Moreno destroys him. Royval destroys him. I just don't really see what I don't really see what he can offer. But that's just my opinion. Moving on to the light heavyweights. Vitor Petrino and Tyson Pedro. This fight was a pretty slow fight. Rounds 1 and 2, not a lot happened. They were pretty much swing rounds, I would say. Round 1, Vitor Petrino through the fight was mostly the aggressor. So if you wanted to rule those rounds for Petrino just based on aggression, you could, because they were all pretty close. Not a lot was offered. Not a lot was thrown from either guy. in terms of offensive striking. There were some grappling exchanges too, lots of leg kicks, lots of calf kicks too. I think Pedro was throwing a lot of calf kicks to Petrino. Petrino was throwing more like he was throwing more like thigh kicks early on, and uh, Pedro was investing in some calf kicks. So um, maybe the first round could have went to Pedro, but I thought it was pretty close. Second round was also really, really close. You could probably give that round to either guy too. Maybe Petrino, because I think he landed a little bit more in the second round, and I think he also, I think, I think he was a bit more aggressive with the cage wrestling, if I'm not mistaken. So you could give the second round to Petrino. So so round one, Pedro. Round two, Petrino, and then the third round, Petrino really put it on Pedro. Got really aggressive. Knew that the fight might not be his. Got Pedro against the cage. Took him down. Nice slam takedown. Slammed him down. Took his back. Was just kind of beating him up. Out wrestled him. Just rode him out and beat him up for the rest of the round, and ended up getting the decision. So I thought that was a really good hustle from Vitor Petrino. And honestly, with a guy like Vitor Petrino, I would love to see him fight like Jailton Almeida at light heavyweight. I know Jailton Almeida is sticking around at heavyweight, but because they're both like super heavily muscled, and I think Petrino's a really strong guy. Um, I don't know. It sounds like an interesting matchup to me. Maybe he could fight like Ian Cutelaba or somebody like that. Just a bigger name guy that's not too much of a jumping competition. Um, that way he can get his name out there more. Fight a guy that's fought a lot of good guys, who's pretty decent himself, who's also got a little bit of, because I think Cutelaba's a little bit scarier than a Tyson Pedro. And I think it'll be a good test for Petrino to have to fight someone like that. Maybe it'll give him a sense of urgency because he starts off slow when he really should be starting off fast because he's a really big, powerful, strong dude. So, yeah, I'd like to see, Vitor Petrino maybe fight like an Ian Cutelaba, or maybe another guy in the light heavyweight division that's good but not too good. I don't want to throw him in deep waters too quickly because there were a few holes in his games. He started off kind of slow. Striking isn't that fluid. It's kind of everything's very telegraphed. You can kind of see everything. So he's a little tight too. Guy could be a little bit more fluid, but really strong, really powerful. And good win for Vitor Petrino. Also, Tyson Pedro did retire. It was it was a pretty sad moment, but it was also a really good moment too, because while Pedro isn't, he's not like a superstar and he's not the greatest light heavyweight to ever fight in UFC. The guy has won some really good fights. He's fought some really good fighters. And he's been, just an overall, I think he's been a positive on the sport. Seems like a pretty chill dude. I got nothing but respect for Tyson Pedro. So, Tyson Pedro, thank you for all of the fights that you've been a part of. Thank you for entertaining the fans for many, many years, and go enjoy your retirement, man. Moving on to the main event. Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Shamil Gaziev. I thought Rozenstruik was going to be too much for Gaziev, and I was right. I will say right off the bat, all praise to Gaziev for that chin. It held up. That chin is real. That's a heavyweight chin. Got a lot of other stuff to work on, Gaziev, but that chin is real. So round one, Gaziev is the heavy aggressor. He's pressuring Rozenstruik pretty much the whole round, throwing jabs, throwing his straight right, not really landing anything super flush, but he is backing up Rozenstruik. I think he engages the clinch a few times too. Doesn't really get the takedown. He gets hit a bunch, but he's also hitting Rozenstruik too. He does get the takedown at the end of the round, but he isn't able to do a lot, Gaziev. He doesn't really, even the ground and pound he throws isn't really landing clean, so he doesn't get to do a lot of damage, but he did get the takedown. It was a really close first round. If you had to give it to anyone, you should give it to Gaziev because he did control the pace of the first round and he was a lot more aggressive. But going into round two, you could already see the fatigue kind of set in for Gaziev. Not a lot was coming from either guy, but Gaziev was the one pressuring. And then I want to say like like a minute or two in the round, Rozenstruik really starts boxing really good. He starts to find his range and his rhythm for Gaziev and starts getting his boxing off really well. He had in the first round he was throwing a jab a lot and he was trying to get boxing, but Gaziev was pressuring so much that it kind of smothered a lot of things that he was trying to do. In the second round, you could see him start to open up with that boxing a lot more. He was starting to land a lot more jabs to the head, jabs to the body. He was throwing a lot of leg kicks too. Just a lot of good boxing coming from Rozenstruik. Gaziev's pretty much plan from here on out was to pressure Rozenstruik against the cage and try to get a takedown, but Rozenstruik was able to defend the takedown pretty easily and just kind of outbox him. Not a lot happened. Round 3, Rozenstruik completely outclasses Gaziev on the feet, just boxing his face off, jab head, jab body, right hand to the face, leg kick, right hand, jab, jab on the way out, just creating angles. The only thing Rozenstruik was doing bad was he kept backing up against the cage. He could have circled a little bit more, but he was beating the face off of Gaziev, and Gaziev really didn't have a lot to offer him in the wrestling department. Rozenstruik was comfortable just kind of digging in underhooks and kind of just throwing Gaziev off of him or keeping him off of him. Gaziev really didn't have a lot of strength. He was kind of just trying to hold on to Rozenstruik and just literally weight drag him to the floor, but wasn't enough for Biggie Boy. Just kind of washes Gaziev in the third round, throwing a lot of combinations, just looking really good. Going into the fourth round, Rozenstruik lands a few strikes early on. Gaziev shoots forward against the cage, and I think they're grappling against the cage for a while. Rozenstruik defends it. They get back to the center of the octagon, and, he just kind of goes back to his boxing, Rozenstruik. And at some point, I want to say it's around the 2-minute and 30-second mark, Rozenstruik lands like a really good combination on Gaziev, knocks his mouthpiece out. Just kind of, I think he knocks his mouthpiece out with the combination. And he ends up pointing to it and tells the ref, like, hey, put his mouthpiece back in, which I thought was a really cool move by Rozenstruik because, it's really hard for fighters to, like, calm down and not be excited when they can see a finish or when they start hurting a guy, especially when it's a big dude like Gaziev. Gaziev is a massive dude, and he had been pressuring Rozenstruik this whole fight. Even at this point, he's still constantly pressuring Rozenstruik. So I thought that was good sportsmanship by Rozenstruik. He's just destroying Gaziev, really testing the chin of Gaziev, which is absolutely 100% there. Like, the guy has an absolute cinder block for a head. Gonna be really hard to knock him out. Like, who can knock him out? Like, Francis Ngannou? Like, maybe Sergey Pavlovich? Like, who else is gonna knock him out? And then in round 5, Gaziev decided to throw in the towel. Apparently, he wasn't able to see out of one of his eyes. I forget which eye it was, but he was having a hard time seeing. And it was a little bit of a weird moment. There was a little bit of controversy there for a second because why am I not remembering his name right now? But the ref, big tattooed ref, I don't know why I can't remember his name. He basically said that he wanted clarification of what Gaziev was saying to his corner. So I think he had the translator come in. The doctor was there, and he was like, I want to know what he is saying to his corner. And I think basically what he was alluding to is that his corner was telling him to fight, and he didn't want to fight. And I think he caught that, and he was just kind of not having that. So I thought that was a really cool moment. I thought that was a good call by the ref, and it was a really cool thing to see, by a ref actually kind of give a crap about the state of the fighter, because a lot of times you see refs stand there while a guy's face is getting turned into puree and they don't even do anything. It's like, what are you zoning out? Did you smoke a giant doobie before you came into the arena? Like, holy crap, man. But, yeah, there was a kind of a weird little moment there for a second, but Gaziev seemed like he was okay with it. He seemed like he didn't want to fight anymore. Like, he was kind of just over getting beat on. Even though the dude had a really great chin, and I don't think Rozenstruik would have been able to, like, knock him out, but I do think he probably would have got the finish in round 5 just like as a TKO stoppage. So Mark Goddard, holy shit, that's the ref's name, Mark Goddard. Why the hell could I not remember that? Good call by Mark Goddard. Anyway, great win from Rozenstruik. I would love to see him fight Derek Lewis. Who the hell does not want to see Rozenstruik fight Lewis? Like, that is obviously the fight everyone wants to see for Rozenstruik. Have him fight Derek Lewis. It's the obvious fight to make. They're both big, giant, scary black dudes that throw insanely hard shots and scare the shit out of everyone. They don't want to grapple. They both just come in there to knock each other out. Make the fight happen. They've been in the same division for years now. How have they not fought yet? Make Derek Lewis versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, UFC. Make it happen. Put it on a fight night. It could be a fight night main card header. Please, UFC. If you guys like the video, give it a like. If you like the content that's coming out from the channel here, subscribe to the channel. If you disagree or agree or have anything else to add to the conversation or add to the conversation of the fight night, please do in the comment section below. And I will talk to you guys later. Peace.